Hey, this is Jon Levin from Dokken, and you're listening to Nothing Shocking Podcast. Keep on rocking.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dogbowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Tuesday evening at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, soon to be coming back to downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would also like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for letting us use their music for our intro and bumper endings. Tonight's guest is
Jon Levin
of Dokken.
He's promoting JonLevinGuitars.com.
Yeah, you can get guitar lessons. You can also have in-person Skype lessons with Jon. What a great interview. Let's get right to it.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Jon, welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Jon, it's great to talk to you tonight.
Likewise, man. Nice to meet you.
Well, first and foremost, with COVID-19 restrictions being what they are, how have you been keeping busy as far as music industry stuff goes?
It's just been like a renaissance period for me in terms of playing. I'm just playing more than I haven't had the guitar this much in my hand since I was like 16. It's unbelievable. Like I got proficient on Pro Tools, which I've been meaning to do for so many years. I've had the stuff, but I never really knew how to do it. Now I'm pretty good at it. So, which makes it great because I can record in my house. And it was always doing drums was the big stumbling block for me. And I finally was able to overcome it. The learning curve for this was pretty steep, or at least it was for me. But so I've been doing that, and it's been really great. I actually have a studio in the house, and now I'm like, I got live amps set up now in my garage and towel wrapped around it, and I'm sure the neighbors are loving that. But it's been fun, and making lemonade out of lemons, right?
Yeah.
Real quick question to kind of sponge off of that. As far as COVID-19 goes, we've talked to a lot of artists, and they feel as though that when the restrictions are lifted, since nobody's playing live anymore and everybody's jonesing to kind of get out there to play live, and then people are jonesing to go watch live music again, do you kind of feel like maybe after the restrictions have been released that maybe we can see a kind of a renaissance in live music and rock and roll again?
Oh, we're definitely going to, man. I mean, think about it. I would think all the musicians that I know out there, either they're sitting home drinking and doing drugs, I'm just kidding, or they're writing music. Hopefully they're not doing the first, right? Hopefully they're just writing music.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. What guitar were you playing tonight?
Today, I have in the studio here, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 10 instruments in here, but they're just like my go-to workhorses, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these are the ones that I need to grab all the time. So I have them out in the studio. And there's like a 12-string acoustic, a 12-string electric, 2 Stratocasters, Fender Strats, like a maple neck and a rosewood neck, a Telecaster, a bass, 1 Les Paul. Then there's a couple Floyd Rose guitars and one that has a sustainer mechanism on it. So all like workhorse pieces,
Yeah, nice.
Oh, very cool. So let's kind of get into JonLevinGuitars.com. It offers a month-to-month, yearly or monthly subscription for various styles of guitar lessons and access to gear as well. Talk to us a bit more about JonLevinGuitars.com.
Okay, well, how that came up was like around a year ago or so, my brother-in-law was sitting in my living room and I was playing, just noodling around on guitar. And he's like, man, this is awesome. If like people could just get to see you just do this up close, that would be awesome. Like, really? Would anyone care? So then I started, I got video recording equipment and, I'm like a real perfectionist. So of course it took me like a month to figure out how to get my guitar sounding the way I liked it. So I spent a month tinkering around with the guitar sound into the video camera. I ended up buying like a mixing console to do that and all this crazy equipment, but I got it sounding good. And then I started just recording videos. I'm like, you know what, man, maybe I'll just record riffs and start. I started doing riffs. I'm like, well, what if I show people how to do these riffs and then categorize them into like beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and then, really slowed it up and showed people really close up and explain where they're coming from. So it started like that, and before you knew it, man, I recorded like 200 clips or more.
Wow.
Nice.
So I've been adding to this stuff as I can, but I wanted to do something really super affordable. I mean, it's very, very inexpensive. It's like $9.99 a month. It's almost free. Put it this way, it cost me more than I'm probably going to make on this thing. I just did it because I wanted to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So cool.
The upkeep on it alone is quite a bit. I have to pay someone to run it and all that stuff. But I love it, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Very cool. So
also there's a live. It's also I do give Skype lessons because I love to teach too.
You took the next question out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Have you?
I like to do it, man. People are like, "Why do you do this?" I'm like, "I do it because I love it, man. I love music."
Well, that being said,
love music, and someone did it for me.
Absolutely. With that being said, have you noticed a surge in Skype lessons since the COVID lockdown?
Yeah, and that's why I thought it would be a good thing, especially for youngsters who aren't in school and don't know what to do. And anything to give some positivity back. That and I could see the reaction on people's faces when they're doing it with me. It makes them happy and uplifted. So I'm happy to do it because of that.
Do you find that since you've delved into this during the COVID-19 lockdown, do you see yourself, outside of the COVID-19 lockdown, having enough time to devote to something like this? When you're out playing live or recording new music, how's it going to work for you?
I try to. I just try to go one day at a time because I have I'm just super busy, but we'll see. For now, I could do it, and as long as I can squeeze it in. I don't like sitting around on a couch and watching TV too much or anything like that. I'm like I'm a worker guy.
Mm-hmm.
So with my spare time, I'd rather be doing something like that as opposed to just doing nothing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So if I'm not like working or writing in the studio or working in my office, I don't really want to I don't like. It doesn't really work for me to do nothing. So anytime I could squeeze in doing something, even on the road years ago, I used to give lessons in the hotel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Now, how'd that work?
Great. I taught people how to clean the rooms wonderfully.
Was it something like, okay, I'm going to be in this town at this time, and is it something you had to coordinate with people in their?
Yeah, I had people that wanted to do it, and they would say, "Hey, what if you? Do you have time?" I would be like, "Okay, listen, I don't know. Call me on the day of the show after sound check. I'll let you know if there's enough time, if I'm too tired." Or in the mornings, because I usually get up pretty early. And if there was usually time, I could squeeze it in for an hour. I'd use the hotel conference room.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah. So besides the lessons, is there anything else you're working on currently?
Yeah, we're writing for another Dokken record.
Awesome.
And other than that, I'm just writing on my own. So it's just been great.
Since you brought up that, the writing of a new Dokken album, we know that we've heard through the other podcasts, the Mitch LaFon podcast, that Don's surgery didn't go too well for him, and he's unable to play guitar at this time. How has his recovery progressed at all?
I don't. He's had a tough road. Unfortunately, I can relate because I've had some of my own health issues with problems, and I feel badly for him. I really do.
Is there?
Hope. You know what? There's always hope for recovery, though.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I'm just hoping. We're just hoping.
Is there
hoping for the best?
Is there Is there any news of progress with him? Do you know? Have you talked to him lately?
I try not to bring it up just because it's why bring up something that might like if he has it off his mind, do I really need to bring it back on his mind? You know what I mean? Like
nope,
if he's having a decent day and he's not dwelling on that, like I try not to bring it up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about brighter
Sure,
things than that.
sure.
You've been playing instruments since the age of 4, piano, trumpet at the age of 7.
Yeah, I just got a keyboard, by the way.
Nice.
Nice. And
Yeah, I haven't really played. I started taking, the lessons I took with my parents made. I don't know if they made me play, but I was very, very young, man. And I played for a couple of years. But, I bought a piano and not a full piano, keyboard piano. And I'm playing again, and it's coming back to me. So it's just great,
fantastic.
Yeah, very cool.
And you started playing guitar at the age of 9. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about your origins of your guitar playing, how it all kind of came about for you?
Yeah, sure. I started with the piano, right? Then from piano, I went to violin.
Oh, wow.
So it was a stringed instrument. And I was able to play that a little bit, and then I went to the trumpet for whatever reason. I wanted to play the trumpet, and then I was a pretty good. I got to be a good horn player. But then come around 5th grade, it was 4th grade. I guess I was 9, right? There was an acoustic guitar in our basement. We were cleaning out our basement one day, and my mom had this old nylon string acoustic guitar, and I decided I wanted to try and play it. And I went to my friend's house, my friend Jeff, I remember, Jeffrey. And he had like this cheap little amp and guitar and this book, a black book called The Beatles Complete.
Yeah.
And I opened up the book and I started learning how to play the chords. And as soon as I heard the amp, what an electric guitar sounded like, I just was all about that. I didn't really want to play the acoustic guitar. And then I played acoustic for a few years. And then when I was 10, I'd say it was 10 or 11, and my parents bought me my first electric guitar, a Univox High Flyer, it was called. And that's how I moved into electric guitar. And once I got into guitar, that was the end of the horn playing. Pretty much. I wish I would have stuck with the keyboard though, in retrospect. But I'm never too late playing it now.
Your rock and roll journey began at the age of 19 in the Long Island area. Can you talk a little bit more about the rock and roll scene during that time on Long Island? We've talked to many.
Sure, there was still a really good scene, legit. I was a kid in high school. Going out to these clubs I was probably not supposed to be getting into. And I'd come home at 2 or 3 in the morning to see these local bands that I was the local guitar heroes and musician heroes. So I went to college for 2 years, and then I managed to get a band together in that time. And then I decided I was going to drop out of school to play in the band, which really thrilled my parents, I'll tell you that. So then I played in this Long Island club band called Devious for a number of years. Greg Smith was the bass player in that, who was one of those Long Island musician heroes I was talking about. He was in this band called Syntron that I used to go sneak to and come home at 3 or 4 in the morning. So he was in that band, and then we played for a number of years, and then I got a call one day to get the Warlock audition. And it was Tommy Henriksen saw me play in a club, and he recommended me. And they called me. I went down and played. And then they called me the next day, and I got the job. And then I had to make the big decision. I didn't want to, do I stay with my band? Because we were selling out every place on Long Island at that time. We actually had a really good following going. So it was really close, But I ended up taking the gig and then made a record with Warlock and Doro Pesh, whatever, and then toured Europe with her.
Oh, so cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that's how it started.
So
that was 1988 and 89.
So before we go on to the next question, you're never going to guess who's going to be our next guest on after your interview tonight.
Yeah.
Larry Mitchell.
Greg Smith.
How cool. My number 2 guest.
Jeff, go ahead. Take the next one.
Yeah,
you can tell them about the story I just said.
We're going to do that.
Well, can you tell us a little bit more about Greg Smith playing with your band, the Devious?
Sure. Greg Smith was in a band called Syntron. Greg was a little bit older than me, but back in the time when you're younger, a few years is a lot of years. Yeah. So he was a lot older than me in my mind. I was only 16. Maybe he was all of 20. I don't know. 21. I don't really remember. So, probably around there. So he was in this band called Syntron. That was one of the best bands on Long Island. And this guitar player, George Syntron, was the guitar player who was amazing. So I was a big fan of his, and that was, as I was saying earlier, I would sneak out of my parents' house and come home at 3 or 4 in the morning. And the rule was I'd go with my friends, but I was too young. So they're like, we'll take you, but if you don't get in, man, you're sitting in the car. And once I didn't get in, I had to sit in the car till they came out of the club at 3 a.m. or whatever it was. Right. So back then, I think the bands used to play like 2 sets. So you'd play one. I had to sit through 2 sets, right? Yeah, and that was Greg. And one day I played for New Year's. I did a New Year's party. Greg was playing, and I was invited to come and to play. And I jammed with him, and I was all of 16 years old, and that was a big thrill for me. I remember my mother said I had to be home by midnight, and Greg offered me a beer. I'm like, I'm not allowed to do that. My mother would kill me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, ask him about that story. He'll tell you this. He'll tell it to you.
Well, we're definitely going to ask him that.
Yeah.
And
that's how it was.
Can you kind of give us a little bit more detail about your time with Warlock? I know you said it was a one album venture for you, but you did get to tour Europe. Is there any more story that you can kind of tell us about your time in Warlock?
Yeah, it was great. It was a great experience. The band was great. It was Bobby Rondinelli on drums. I'm sure you know who he is.
Absolutely.
Tommy Henriksen on bass, and Doro. And we would the band was just killer. We did the European tour. We did a record in the European tour. But, at that time, I really had my heart set on having my own band. Mm. And after that tour with Warlock, I had this singer that I found. And I said to Tommy, I'm like, look, man, let's just do it. Can we do some demos with this guy? I have some song ideas. And Tommy and I started writing. And we did a demo. And then Bobby played the demo. And it came out great. And then we got signed to Atlantic Records.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then all of us ended up departing to do our own band.
Yeah. Well, the thing was when that Warlock album came out, it was so red hot. And I remember I was in high school, and everybody just loved that album. We really thought that band was going to go on to do more things than just the short time that it was together. It was one of those kind of things where it was just more or less of a project than so a band. How did you kind of view that?
No, it was Doro's band. I know she's still playing today. She's, unbelievable. She's a very dedicated person, boy. She's really talk about an artist that gives 100%. That's her.
Absolutely.
She every night would give unbelievable. She'll play for 2.5 hours if she could. That's how dedicated she is. Yeah,
absolutely. Go ahead, Jeff. Take the next one.
So you were talking earlier about your parents weren't happy with you dropping out of school.
Yeah, they didn't like that. But then during my spare time, I ended up going back to school.
Yeah, that's what I was going. That was my
squeezed it in. And I'm a lawyer too. When I moved out here, I ended up at some point I went to law school. So
yeah, that's where I was going to go with it. I was just going to go in the '90s. You dropped out of the music industry to become an entertainment lawyer.
Yeah, I did. I didn't. Once the Nirvana thing hit, there was no more guitar solos, and that was in my mind. I didn't. In my mind, I thought of it as a permanent end. I was younger. I didn't know that anything would ever come back. I thought, it's over. Mm-hmm. The whole scene out here in California. I moved out for that. Was gone. Just over. Tower Records closed. Then no more record deals with that whole Napster thing. The whole thing just tanked. Tanked hard.
Well,
so that was it. I had to do something. Yeah. My music career is done.
Well, here's the thing: is that it's fascinating to me to hear certain people's stories about how they changed directions on careers. And obviously, you said that you felt like the music industry was tanking at the time, and it still kind of is to a certain degree. But it feels like it's making a rebound. But what was the driving force? What was it about the law, becoming an attorney? In the legal sense, what drew you to become, look at becoming an attorney?
It was called fear of being destitute, fear of having no money to buy a burger. When I moved out here, man, I had no money. I was working in a phone boiler room and getting up at 4 a.m. to try and sell computer parts on the phone. I was making nothing, getting by I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with the whole band. We were all sharing. There was 3 of us, actually, 3 of the 4 band members in a 2-bedroom. The singer slept in the living room, and we all split the rent. I had to come up with $250 a month, which was hard. So once that went away, I got scared. I didn't want to. I didn't know what to do. And at that point, I was, wasn't really little kid anymore. I mean, what year was that? It said 92, I guess it was. It must have been 92. I was 25 or 26.
But, let's face it, taking the direction of going into law is a pretty drastic move, and it's a big commitment for somebody to spend that much time on education. It is. It's a big commitment, man. It was 3 years plus the bar exam. I didn't, I didn't love it, but consumed my life for 3 years. I didn't play guitar for that whole time, hardly at all. Was it
maybe once a week?
Is it one of those things where looking at the law as far as studying it, did you kind of like have a real maybe a draw to it? Like like I hear like a lot of attorneys say the law is very fascinating to me. Do you kind of have that same approach when you kind of
No, not interested. No, I'm not. I don't find it fascinating. I don't. I just don't. It's a grind as a job. It's a grind. I've done it for a very long time.
These days, how do you view yourself? Do you view yourself as the attorney that plays guitar, or are you the guitar player that's an attorney as well? How does that work for you? I'm
a guitar player, musician that got stuck with carrying this baggage that I've carried for 25 years. Look, it's also afforded me to make a living, which is wonderful. But, the majority of my legal practice is as a family law attorney doing divorces, man. Oh. There's not that much work as a music attorney, so it's sort of morphed into that. And it's hard. I'm not going to kid you, man. It's hardcore work, Oh,
absolutely. In between your time working as an attorney, you were also contacted by Jeff Pilson during that same time to do some guitar work for Don Dokken. Can you kind of tell us that story, that that venture that you've had coming to Dokken to start? What you were just in there as a studio musician at first, and then it kind of evolved for you. How did it all work out?
That's what happened was Jeff was a friend of mine through Tommy Henderson. They were like roommates together, and I just remember I was over at my dad's for dinner. It was at night, and I had like a suit on. I must have been in the office or something, or in court. I don't know. I remember I had a suit on because I checked my office voicemail from my dad's home at the time. I don't even think I didn't have a cell phone yet. It was 97. So, and then I got a message from Jeff asking if I can come play some guitar solos. But he said, our guitar player quit. Can you come play on some guitar solos on some of my stuff? He didn't mention that it was for Dokken. And if he did, I definitely wouldn't have gone. Because at the time, I hadn't been playing much guitar, remember. I was I did the law thing. Then I had a record company. And I was business guy. I wasn't, I had short hair. I wasn't really in it, So I got the phone message. I said to my dad, this friend of mine wants me to go play on guitar on some... So my dad's like, do it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I haven't even played guitar in years. I really don't even do that anymore. He's like, do it. I'm like, really? I'm like, I don't even have a guitar with me. He's like, just go. I'm like, okay. So I didn't even have a guitar. I went down to the studio. I got there. I was in the suit still, right? Because that's all I had on. I didn't go drive back to my house. I lived in the valley, and my dad was in the city. So I drove to Redondo Beach. Then the studio doors open, and there's Don with holding a Les Paul. He just sticks the Les Paul out through the door and says to me, okay, play. I'm like, can I hear the track? He's like, no. He's like, no. He must have been skeptical because I could tell he was wanting to like rush it out. He's like, no, it's in A. Let me just play solo. I'm like, okay. So he put the tape on, boom, 1-2 takes, and I had it. And I did 2 solos. One was for a song called The Irish Song, which actually is the solo that's on it got released as the bonus track for Japan or something. So that's floating around out there someone. I haven't heard it since 97, so maybe after we hang up, we'll try to hunt it down.
We might try to hunt it down.
And the other song was on the demo for the song called Maddest Hatter, but it was totally different than the version that ended up on the record. So that's how I entered into it. And then at the time, they took Reb, which I can understand. I would have taken Reb too. I mean, what are you going to do? Take short-haired lawyer guy or Reb Beach? Right? I mean, that's what it was at the time, realistically. I mean, so after Reb quit, they had a couple of quick guitar. They had Norum for a year, and then Alex DeRosso for a short time, and then Don and I. In that time, I started working with Don. I think in the capacity of a lawyer, I think.
Okay.
It's a long time ago, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what happened. And then eventually, I remember Don just called me one day and said, "Hey, could you fly out here? We're on the tour with the Scorpions." And he flew me out to Vegas. He said, I want to have a serious talk with you. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I came out and saw the show, and then he said, "Do you like the show?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was great." He's like, "You want to do this?" I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I want to make the move. I want to put you in the band." I'm like, "Don, are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm sure. I want to put you in the band." I'm like, "All right, let's do it, man."
Nice.
Very cool.
And that's how it happened.
Wow.
So we started writing together in like 2000 I actually ended up playing a bunch of shows. I played about a dozen shows right before that time. And then after that, we started writing for Hell to Pay. Yeah. And then Hell to Pay. Then in 2003, he officially made the announcement. But when he made the announcement, we were already at that point mostly done with Hell to Pay. I think we'd already written most of it at that time.
Oh, very cool. Jeff, you got the next one?
Then in 2008, you came out with the album Lightning Strikes. I'm a fan of that one. That one is kind of a good throwback to
I like that one too.
Earlier Dokken sound. Anything you can tell us about that album?
That one, look, at that point I was more comfortable because that was 2006 we started writing for that one. In the first one, the first record for Hell to Pay, I was afraid to speak up a little, you know what I mean? Because I was new. We wrote together, Don and I, but I didn't really ever, For that one, though, he said to me, "What do you think we should do?" I said, "You know what? If it was me as a Dokken fan, I think we should do something that sort of really is what would be the logical next record if you did another one after Beast from East." I said, "That's what I would, I think, want to hear as a fan." He's like, "You think we could do that?" He's like, Don said to me, because Don's like a true artist, and he doesn't want to redo the same things, and I can understand that. I said, "Don, listen, how about we do this? Let me burn you a disc of like my favorite Dokken songs from back in the day. Put it in your car and just start listening to it when you're driving around. All right? And I'll write riffs that because Dokken was one of my favorite bands growing up. So writing Dokken style riffs was easy for me. It was in my wheelhouse. So I said, I'll write riffs and let's just go for it and see what happens. So he came over one day. I had the riff to Oasis, and boom, right away he had a chorus idea, and boom, had a song done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. As far as the writing process of working with somebody like Don Dokken is like, is his writing style pretty much been the same since you joined the band, or has it has he evolved with times? How is it working as far as writing music with Don Dokken?
We're a really good team together for writing. With any sort of relationship, you have to have like chemistry with somebody. Either you do or you don't with writing or playing music together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we just have that chemistry. We just do. And the way we do it is, well, at least now with COVID, I write music and I send it to him, and he writes lyrics and melodies, and we go from there. So via email and stuff, because that's the only way you can really do it now. But yeah, as an artist, Don is a really great musician, and he's no one-trick pony with writing. In fact, he doesn't rewrite the same idea. I'm the one who's usually saying, "Hey, I try to like write things that are mainstream Dokken just because I think that's what I like to do. I feel like that's my contribution to pushing it towards that direction,
Mm-hmm.
And it works out really well, man.
Oh,
we just have a good chemistry.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
And then 2012, you guys did Broken Bones. You had a little bit of a lineup change there. You had Sean McNabb on bass and Jimmy DeGrasso join you guys. Anything you can talk to us about that album?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite records. I just at the time that one came out, we spent a lot of time making it, and we were both really super proud of it. I felt like it got a little rushed at the end in terms of the mixing and mastering, but not so much the mixing, but maybe the mastering. I don't know. And Don and I both had some health problems at that time, And we were begging the record company to please don't put it out. Let's wait till we're both better because we can't tour. So, they didn't want to wait. So they put it out, and I just feel like it came and went, and no one really knew anything about it. So it was a shame.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely.
You know,
Good, Jeff. You
That
got
was
it was very disheartening, man. I really felt like after that, I said to Don, I don't ever want to make another record. And like that, no, seriously, that's how bummed out I was about the whole thing. You know, we spent like almost 2 years writing that thing or whatever it was. And just to have that happen was just like, why do this again, man? You know?
Well, yeah.
So anyway, we're doing it again.
Yeah, the whole landscape's changed.
Man, the stuff we have on right now, the stuff we have so far is the best stuff we've done.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear it.
When are you anticipating a release? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. Well, at this point, a lot of things are up in the air with the whole COVID thing.
Sure.
So it'll come out in 2022.
Oh,
yeah.
Early 22, though. I mean, with a little luck, we'll tour the record in the summer of 22 on this.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Well, we were fortunate enough to get Dokken here at least twice in the last couple of. I can't remember what year it was, but I know I saw Dokken open for the Scorpions when you guys came to our local arena.
Yeah.
And
where are you guys?
We're in Moline, Illinois. I think at that time it would have been either the TaxSlayer Center or the iWireless Center.
What was that, about 6-7 years ago?
I think so.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Yeah,
that was a good show.
Yeah, and then you guys also came down here when you were on the same bill with Lita Ford and Sebastian Bach and Rat. Yeah, that was great. That was great as well.
Oh yeah, the tour where we almost died in the airplane crash.
Well, now you got to fill us in.
Yeah, please do tell.
Yeah, that was totally scary, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was Dokken. Okay, so the Dokken band and the Rat band we shared a plane together. Somebody was nice enough to get us a private plane, right? So it was just the two bands with management, including the manager of Rat, my oldest and best friend, Rob Hoffman, was on the plane too. We get on this plane. It was flying us around for that whole little short tour we were doing there. I think it was like 3 dates or 5 days or something like that. Three dates, I think. So the plane takes off, and the mood on one of these things, you have to remember, is so positive because you're on a private plane. You have to go through an airport. You're with your friends. There's really great, there's food for you, and so Warren DeMartini is also one of my closest friends, and we were sitting together at a table, like looking at each other, across from each other. And I think Jimmy was sitting next to me, DeGrasso. And I don't remember who the fourth person was, but we were all right there. So, Warren and I are eating and we're hanging out and we're having a great time. And then we had a short flight. It was maybe supposed to be a 30-minute flight, 25-minute flight somewhere in the Midwest. And then we take off, and about 10 minutes into the flight, all of a sudden I saw Rob Hoffman get out of his seat, and he's on the phone, and he looked like concerned. I'm like, what's up? So I turned my head further, and I saw a bunch of smoke coming out of the cockpit.
Oh my God.
Like in those planes, there's like a galley area for this. There was a flight attendant, and the galley area door was open, and then the pilot door to the cockpit was also open. And I saw the pilots wearing oxygen masks, like the things from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I watched as the main pilot threw his mask off, and then he goes to the galley and he's frantically like pulling out like paneling from underneath the galley. Like I don't know what he was doing, but he was so there's smoke in the plane, and then he does, without saying anything, we do like an abrupt turnaround. So needless to say, I actually have a video of everything I just told you up until the smoke point. Like I have the video of us taking off in that plane with Warren across. I have this on video as it happened.
Jeez.
You guys there?
Yeah.
I thought we're in shock.
Okay.
We're like looking at each other.
So anyway, we do an emergency landing somewhere in the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
We do an emergency landing as we all just held our breath for like 10 freaking minutes, and then it was so surreal. Like even after we landed, I remember thinking in the back of my head, what are the odds? Like, it's probably wasn't anything that big a deal, So I went. When we did the emergency landing, there was all the emergency vehicles on the tarmac, like a full-on emergency landing. Yeah. And then when we got off the plane, I looked at the flight attendant, and she was pale to begin with, but man, she looked like a vampire sucked out every drop of her blood, man. She was white as a ghost, and it was like her first flight, her first work experience as a flight, right? That's what she had. So I went up to the pilot, so I said to him, "Hey, man, like, what happened? Like, what?" He's like, "Oh, we had an electrical fire under the cockpit floor." I said to him, but wasn't that bad? Like, nothing really big deal, right? He said, "No, very bad." I'm like, "Really?" He said to me, "Yes, many a plane have gone down from what just happened to us."
Oh, wow.
And then it's just like, I go inside into the terminal, and they had the news on, and we were on the news, like emergency landing at the airport,
I remember that. Yeah. I remember hearing about that now. I don't know what it is about the Midwest and plane issues. We're located not too far away from where Buddy Holly's plane crashed. And,
wow.
And also, a couple of years ago, we were the area where Prince had to make his emergency landing at our airport when he had his drug overdose on his plane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so what is it about this area?
Well, we want him to come back, so don't scare him too much.
Yeah. So, that was like a really sobering experience for me. I got to be honest. It was like, we just came so close to all biting the dust there. Yeah. I remember being on when I saw the smoke, I remember thinking by the way, like the next few minutes that it took for us, we had to turn around because the rule is, apparently, what they told me, they have to go to whatever is the nearest airport in that situation.
Yeah.
So the nearest one was back where we started. So they turned around and went back there, but boy, was the mood on the plane for that last few minutes when we did that emergency. We were all pretty freaked out, man. And I remember thinking, if I see flames, then I probably have like 20 or 30 seconds left to live.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm not kidding.
Yes.
That's not fun. I'm dead serious. Because if had the flames erupt, what would have happened? If it flamed, how are you putting that out, man? The fire was underneath the floor.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, and it can spread. Yep.
Oh my.
Yeah, that would have been it, man. That would have been the end. But anyway, look, we got lucky and dodged a bullet, and after we landed, and we all got cars.
I was going to say,
all
or took the
rented
bus.
cars and drove.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have one more question to ask you before we let you go for tonight. So, back in 2019, you might find this to be humorous, but 2019 we had Ghost play here locally at the same arena that you guys played at. And you know how Ghost has the nameless ghouls and they all have their masks on, and you're trying to figure out, who's playing drums, who's on guitar, who's on bass, all that stuff. So, and I was with my son. My son was with me that night. No, actually, no. My brother-in-law. Sorry, wrong show. Anyway, we're trying to figure out who's behind what mask or whatever else. And Tobias Forge has two guitarists. One was a bigger dude. One was a not as big a dude. And man, the guy stage presence just seemed like it was you. Wearing a mask.
You thought, it seemed like me?
It seemed like this guy had the same kind of stage presence that you did. He kind of walked around the stage, played kind of similar that you did, kind of had the same, because I've seen you play before live. So I'm like going, man, I wonder if that's Jon Levin. Jon Levin, was that you? Were you one of the nameless ghouls?
I can definitively tell you. I've never, honestly, I've never really heard the band name until you just mentioned it.
Oh, I thought for sure. My brother-in-law and I were sitting there going,
maybe it's the ghost of Jon Levin.
Maybe, but that guy he must have took notes on how you perform live, because it seemed like that was you with a mask on. Man,
hey man, if he did, it's all good, man. We all have to take it from somewhere, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, hey, we are out of our allotted time, but I wanted to thank you so much for your time and all your correspondence that we've had this week to get this all
My pleasure, man. You guys be safe and be well. I hope the same to your families.
Oh, thank you so much. This is how it's going to work. We have about 3 episodes ahead of yours, but this should be released in about 2.5 weeks, and Jeff is the editing wizard over here, so he'll get it all cleaned up for us. And
awesome, man.
And when it is ready, I'll send you the link, and please share it on your social media.
You got it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, you guys.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one, guys. See ya.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Everybody hides at home inside their nest of snakes. Everybody grinds the stone and makes their own mistakes. Hide in the headlights, fight the grip of fear. You can make your dreams come true, but you just can't do it here. Hey! Everybody eyes the gun and screams inside their head. Everybody bites their tongue and pays their bills instead. Hide in the spotlights, fight the grip of death. You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey! Roll the dice. Take your chances. Everybody knows the game is fixed, there is no prize. Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take